good exploration always does. Perseverance, funding, and the right people. You need to have all those ingredients to really make it work.
Well, hello, welcome to Assay TV. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Simon Mitchell, who is the Managing Director of Southern Gold. For those of you who watched an earlier video from Southern Gold, you'll know that they are looking for tier 1 epithermal deposits of gold and silver in South Korea. And Simon, great to see you today. Last time we spoke, we went through your various projects there in Korea. But today, starting things off, you've got some news about a sale of your JVs in Korea. Tell us a little bit about what's happened there.
Yeah, so that's a pretty big deal for us, Leo, when you put it into context of the size of the company. Basically, what we've done is we've sold a joint venture interest in the Gumma and Au-Ag projects to Bloomberg Merchant Ventures. That's a London Stock Exchange listed company on the standard segment there. And so we've done effectively an equity swap. Bloomberg actually have the option to provide us with cash, but I guess at the end of the day, the headline value of the deal is about 10 million US, which is about 13.2 million Australian dollars. So when you look at that compared to our market cap, which is about just a little bit higher, it's pretty close to the market where we're sitting in the market at the moment. So it's sort of, we've obviously got the rest of our business in terms of cash and our activities in South Korea. So this is actually a small part of our business, ironically. So anyway, we're very pleased with the outcome.
And what do you think? What are Bloomberg Merchant Ventures planning to do with those two projects?
Well, they're on the record of saying they're going to move them forward into production as soon as they practically can. They received their approvals through the Korean system. When was it? The year before last, 2019, pre-COVID. Obviously, COVID has sort of thrown a little bit of a spanner in the works, but they're hoping as we come out of that, they'll be able to get up and running relatively quickly. These are, remember, Leo, these projects are not kind of greenfield new developments. They're the reopening of old decommissioned gold mines. So they've already got some underground workings in place. They can reopen those and get rolling relatively quickly and at very modest capital cost. So it's quite a different sort of mining scenario than your typical greenfields development. And so they are expecting that to be relatively fast in terms of scale up.
And you're planning to keep hold of shares in BMV, yeah?
Yeah, we certainly, in the release we put out today, for example, we said we're not going to be dribbling out small numbers of shares into the market. That would just be detrimental to the share price. And at the end of the day, we believe that with Bloomberg going to 100% of the projects, that will be received very well in London. And I would not be surprised if they get a bit of a kick there now that they've got full control of the project. So the paper value of our equity holding in Bloomberg should also do very well in that kind of scenario. So, we're expecting that the value of that investment to grow with time as they get closer to production.
And the rationale behind the sale is to help you focus on your other projects?
Yeah, to a degree. The big thing for us, Leo, was that because of the way the Bloomberg were developing the projects and a lot of the materials that they produce and how they operate were not in alignment with the JORC code. So it was quite difficult for me to promote the Gumma and Au-Ag projects in the manner they were being promoted in London. So there was a little bit of a disconnect between between what could be said in London and what could be said in Australia. And what we found is that over time, there was a fairly significant premium building up in the Bloomberg Merchant Ventures share price compared to Southern Gold in Australia. So, we were diverging. And this was a way of us restructuring the arrangement. So we ended up with a shareholding in something that's got a very visible, market value. And, you don't have to, you basically rely on the disclosures in London at the end of the day. So it doesn't actually come down to what Simon Mitchell says in the Australian market. So I think that's a good outcome for our shareholders. It means that we've got a cleaner see-through valuation and we can let them get on with it.
Tidies things up nicely.
Yeah.
But to go back to your projects that you're working on now in South Korea, I know you're in the midst of a certain amount of field work over there. Your Dokon project, primarily the nettle, thistle, and thorn projects. Tell us a little bit about what's happening down there.
Yeah, so we made a discovery of a new gold-silver trend, which we call the golden surprise trend. We went back to that area, did a comprehensive soil program, and we were basically able to highlight a very strong trend of gold and silver mineralization, as well as things like arsenic. So we had good geochemistry in the area. We could also get good rock chips on surface, so we knew that there was some mineralization in the outcrop. And so we're in there drilling. It's the first time this system has been drilled at this part of to the north. So, you know, we've got what we think is an excellent target. We will try, we probably won't test all three of those you mentioned. We'll probably test 2 out of the 3 in this program, where we got the very good soil results, for example. And who knows, you know, we're hoping that we can find something that replicates the sort of grades we saw on surface, which was actually a very high grade silver system, Leo. We got, you know, literally 500-600 grams per ton silver, and in some cases even higher.
I mean, I know you had one rock chip sample at sort of 9,260 grams per ton silver and things like that, which obviously right. in a small sample like that, it's hard, you know, it's hard to see what's underneath, but very interesting to see what happens with the drilling. So how many holes and how many meters are you planning to drill there?
Yeah, so we're looking at 3 drill holes and probably circa somewhere between 300 and 400 meters at the end of the day, probably closer to 400 meters once we're done and dusted. We will, of course, react to what we see in core. Obviously, if we're seeing some very good indicators, that will mean more drill holes. We'll just keep drilling. But let's just wait and see what comes out of the first couple of holes. And, you know, we'll take it from there. So, you know, we're not expecting assays back from the first 2 holes for another 4 weeks or so. So we've got a bit of time before we know where we're going with that project. But it's certainly an exciting target. So fingers crossed we'll see those sort of silver grades at depth.
Absolutely. Something to look forward to possibly. And Dayam project, what's happening there? You've done some reconnaissance sampling, I believe, and you've got some drill plans there as well.
Yeah, so look, that drilling, it's still not yet confirmed that we'll go in there with the rig, you know, just after Dokon, but we've been doing a lot of groundwork there. So we've certainly done the soil sampling again. We've been rolling out a lot more soil programs, you know, at Gumma too. So we've had a bit of mixed results with the soils. In some areas, it seems to be you know, sticking out very strongly in terms of the sort of anomalies that we're seeing, you know, a bit like a Dokon where we got very good indications. And in other project areas, we've noticed that the anomalism is a lot more subtle, perhaps less encouraging. But look, you know, projects like Dayam Valley, Gumma, these are sort of new areas that no one's ever worked in before. And so we're literally at first pass pulling it together. How big are these systems and so on. But certainly Dayam Valley is looking very interesting because the soil results seem to be reinforcing the technical story from our surface mapping and all the rock chips we got along a very long trend of mineralization. So the Dayam Valley story is sort of starting to come together pretty well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we drill that target, maybe not next week, but you know, sooner rather than later.
And Gumma, tell us a little bit about what you found there so far.
Yeah, look, that one, Gumma is an interesting one in that there is a big system there. We see a lot of alteration. We've picked up mineralization in veins there. To be frank, we probably need to get some of our technical experts on the ground there. And one of the frustrations with the COVID thing has been the travel disruptions to our experts in Canada, New Zealand and Australia, not being able to get into South Korea without quarantine, etc. And so that has kind of thrown a little bit of a spanner in the works. And Gumma would be one of those projects where we really need to get one of these guys actually there on the ground. It's a subtly difficult technical project, but we can see a lot of indicators of a larger system there. It just requires somebody who's really seen these type of epithermal systems before to really pull it apart and better target the areas that we need to get the rig into. So that's probably more of a work in progress, to be honest.
And just to remind our viewers, the expertise within the company with regard to South Korea's epithermal systems is quite significant, yeah?
Yes, that's right. So I mean, on the board, we've got Doug Kerwin, who's obviously a very, very well-known geologist, but one of the leading economic geologists globally. And Doug, of course, has got a very strong background in epithermal. In fact, he was the guy who sort of discovered the epithermals in Korea back in the late 80s, early 90s. So in a sense was the genesis of all that. But yes, we've got other technical guys who come from the Ivanhoe group. So Doug Kerwin and some of these geologists that we use are all ex-Ivanhoe guys. They've kind of seen the sort of targets that we're after, and in some cases they've got experience in Korea as well. So yeah, we've got very, very good guys. Once we can get them on the ground, we get very good bang for buck.
And of course, Ivanhoe, the company responsible for the 3 operating mines in Korea, the Yunsan, Moisen, and Gasado Island.
That's right. Yeah, which are still being mined to this day, Leo. So Gasado Island is being mined by a private Korean group as we speak. So that's more than 20 years of mining in that system there. So there's definitely form. We actually think that beyond that, there is actually potential for very large epithermal systems. They can be quite tricky to track down. And a lot of the exploration that's occurred in Korea, I would say, has been very, sort of very surface level, fairly straightforward, in front of your nose type stuff that's occurred in Korea historically. What we're looking for is a tier 1, big epithermal system, something that will really attract the attention of the majors. And we believe it's there. It's just going to require us to get in there and work over the next couple of years to hunt it down.
Absolutely. It requires a bit of patience, eh?
It does a little bit. Yeah, it does. Good exploration always does. Perseverance, funding, and the right people. You need to have all those ingredients to really make it work.
Well, good luck with the programs as they pan out over the next few weeks and months. And congratulations on completing the deal for selling the joint ventures. But thank you very much, Simon, for joining us this morning and giving us an update on Southern Gold.
Thanks, Leo. Always a pleasure.
Thanks.